See what the collective energy has in store for us this week. I'll be taking a look at what's going on in the collective. I'll be taking a look at how this may affect the world stage and predictions moving forward for the week ahead, and then how to navigate those energies on a personal level using predictive energy personally. So we're using the Forecaster Oracle. I'll also be going through a couple of planet placements, not too many, just so we can take a look at what is going on collectively, energetically, and planetary. So let's take a look at the planets first of all. I'll be using the Forecaster Oracle for my readings today for all parts of these readings. So taking a look at this chart, you can see that there's a lot of heavy energy on one side of the chart. So I'd be curious to see if we're looking out for any imbalance in collective energy, or heavily weighted towards that kind of fiery energy, because we've got a lot of Aries. Again, you can see it's a lot of Aries on this one especially, end of the week. But then we also have a lot of water signs with the Pisces in a cluster there, or a stellium of planets together. So this could be overwhelming energy emotionally, so there could be heightened emotions. Now, I don't normally analyze the week before, not with these, because I'm not going to do that every week, but the cards last week were saying something's coming onto the internet this week, because it kept talking about the algorithm in every section that could be quite overwhelming, and I said that you may need to take a social media break away from that energy, because it's going to be everywhere. Now, I've seen that we had the release of 3 million, I believe. That seems an awful lot of documents to me, but I didn't go through with them, only because the cards said last week, be aware of the energy and what it will do. So how overwhelming and how dark and deep this energy was. But I did see a lot of creators that were reading through and were spending 5 to 13 hours just binge reading these documents, and they were saying, I don't recommend you do that, because it was really zapping their energy. I did say something felt like an energy harvest, and when we all put our collective energy into something, especially something fearful and dark like the Epstein files, then that is the energy we are putting into the collective. So I think because of the energy that was put into the collective last week, I think we could be looking at quite heavy, intense energy this week. We've got the planets all sitting in one side for stelliums. Now, I wonder if this is going to bring us any kind of natural disasters, fire, water, being volcanoes or water type disasters coming up because of the heavy weight of the planets here and the stelliums that I'm seeing. So without getting, the cards will give us a little more detail here, but I also think because of the energy that went into the collective energy last week, with everybody reading the Epstein files and people starting to see, because we had the cognitive dissonance card that kept coming up as well, the perception change, people starting to see the situation for what it really is. Some of those scenarios were quite deep and quite dark. Now, I've been following the Epstein saga since 2011, before I even knew who Epstein was. So I've been following a lot of these stories for a long time. So I've been able to scatter them and not have to binge watch them in one go like a lot of people are doing. So for those people that have done that and binge watched that information, please take care of yourself. You need to maintain your mental health at this moment, because it's very important when going into very deep, dark places like that, that you are keeping balanced with your mental health, because it can easily bring you down. So let's take a look at any other interesting formations here. Now we've got, as I said, we've still got this stellium of Aquarius like we did last week, which is rebellion energy, which is outside of the box thinking, different perspectives. Then we've got this high stellium of Pisces energy here. This could be about having strong boundaries. Maybe you're needing more boundaries this week. Maybe it's all about seeing situations. It could be fantasy thinking as well, because it's very much outside of the physical body thinking, and it could be people going into fantasy thinking here could be an issue as well this week. It could be escapism, could feel like one of the things, wanting to just escape from the mental loads or emotional energy, because very emotional water sign stellium here. So we've got this feeling that I'm feeling as I'm tapping into the energy of wanting to just break away from that energy, wanting to put boundaries up or escape. Escapism is the word I keep hearing. Escape from the hectic, heavy energies that's playing out because of the release files over the last week that people are reading and putting that energy into the collective. Now I am seeing here, which is an important placement that's coming up, we've got Saturn moving into Aries, conjunct 0 degrees with Neptune 0 degrees. This is all about hurdles and obstacles. Neptune wants to dissolve things that are not working, but will want to do it in a very Aries way. Aries can be competitive, it can be impulsive, it can be warlike. So we've got Neptune there already wanting to dissolve power structures in a very Aries kind of way, but now we've got conjunct with Saturn. Saturn is accountability, of course. It can represent accountability, but it can also represent obstacles and just hurdles that are coming up, challenges I should say, challenging kind of energy that could be coming up globally or collectively around the world because of this heavy fire stellium here with it could be the energy too, like I'm feeling it's like impulsive energy, it's jittery energy. I'm feeling a little bit it's overwhelming, and that would be coming in from the stellium earlier on in the week of Pisces, but later in the week it starts becoming, you know, when you go through the different stages of grief, that's what it feels like to me. It becomes anger. So what becomes first overwhelm and sadness turns into anger. I feel the shift coming in towards the end of the week with the planets here, but I felt it in my body as well. I felt kind of jittery, anxious, but it feels almost like I could be angry with that energy. So the fire energy, just beware that could be coming up in the current week thanks to the collective energy that was put in last week. So let's pull cards. Let's see what the cards have to say about the collective energy. Now I could pray for rainbows and light, but we want to see what is really going on in the collective energy. Remember that the collective energy is multifaceted. It comes from many points of thinking. I think that if we are all doing our best to be the best version of ourselves and focus on things that we really love and enjoy, we're doing our best for everybody, being what the energy we are individually responsible for putting into the collective energy. Welcome back. So we are in the collective energy. Now I've separated this to be this side when I was talking about everybody being responsible for their individual energy that they put into the collective. Over here is when I was thinking about what is in the collective this week, what's going on this week. Now jumping over to this side here would be troubled relations. It could be miscommunication. This is collectively putting in individuals being responsible for their own actions, what they're putting into the collective energy. It could be causing rifts or issues with people seeing sides. See how they're facing different sides? It's like that division where it's the division that goes on in the world when one group believes one thing and another group believes another thing, and then there's this energy of troubled issues because people cannot see the same situation the same way, they see it differently. So that can cause a bit of troubled relations with the division and the divided energy here. So I am seeing that already in the collective energy, possibly coming in from those files, but we may see a little bit more troubled energy in the collective energy this week. So that is people not agreeing. That is people seeing the same situation from two different points of view, and they cannot see eye to eye on the same situation, related to the information surge or the data dump. So that's the files, that's the information that came in. So we saw that came in last week, and this is when I was reading on what you are responsible for putting into the collective energy individually, but I also have asked for this to be what's coming this week. So it's how people are responding to the release files and seeing it from different perspectives or point of views. So that is causing a little bit of energy here. Now it is saying here that it is where did I read it? That's on that side. We'll go over here. Financial abundance or growth or expansion is what came in when I was saying you are responsible for your energy and what you choose to put into the collective. So if you focus on raising your vibrations, you focus on not paying attention to that harsh energy, cease fire, and not being in the fire energy, then you are focused on this energy here. Now, if I'm reading it for the whole collective over the week, this is saying that we're coming into an expansion week, a growth week, a period of perhaps some wins, some energy of expansion or growth, but it's a positive card. This is a really positive card to come into the collective energy. Negotiations, ceasefires is another positive card. So while we have some negative energy in the collective from last week, which are these two cards here, and people not seeing eye to eye or troubled relations because they're seeing the same situation in two different ways, over here we're seeing negotiations, ceasefires. Maybe there's going to be some, wouldn't that be great? Some balance, harmony, ceasefire between two different points of view or two different ways of seeing. Now I'm probably being a little bit pie in the sky, a little bit rainbows and unicorns here, wanting to find that harmony, because I'm all about collective energy. I'm all about the people and the people harmoniously working together collectively. So maybe I am being a little bit naive and hopeful for the future, but I do see ceasefire and negotiation sitting next to troubled relations. So maybe we are going to be seeing this week coming up some kind of energy where people have been disagreeing. Could be a country, it could be leaders, it could be the people. Will start to cease fire and start to peace talks, have negotiations, or at least balanced, a little bit more balanced than just completely divided, seeing the situation in two different ways. Maybe they'll start to see the situation from one point of view. Okay, that's interesting. Aftermath, recovery, rebuilding. So this is the energy from last week, because this is what I was kind of tapping into. You're responsible for what you put into the collective based on that information that came through all over the algorithms last week. We've got our algorithm here for the week ahead. This is just rebuilding the energy and the lowness, the moods that was heavy, especially if you were one of these people that actually binged that information that came through that data dump. Then you're going to be feeling a little bit low this week. So you need to be responsible for your energy and focus more on growth and expansion of your light here. So you're not further feeding into that collective energy. Coming into this week, we're looking at what's coming up. Now, we could be looking at another solar pose. We could be looking collectively, wreaking havoc. Ooh. Solar activity. We had a big one last week. We had a big solar event. Not quite earth facing, but still in our direction. So we could be affected by it this week. And aftermath recovery is what I looked at when I said, ooh, aftermath recovery from that solar pulse. So it's the aftermath that happens after a solar eruption takes place, which we had a very big one last week. This could be saying we've got another one coming up in the week ahead, or it could just be the aftermath of what happens once we do have an ignition or a solar pulse. So we've got these power plays, again, talking about you are responsible for how you and what you do with your energy, what you do with your attention, what you're looking at, and miserable energy here I've got to look at. So what you're looking at that's depressing affects the energy you're putting in the collective, affects your personal energy. Now, I'm also seeing, because this came up so much last week as well, the loss, the mourning, the final echo. I'm reading this on Saturday, which is Saturday the 7th of February. In the Northern Hemisphere right now, it is evening of the 6th of February. But this collective energy reading doesn't start until the 10th of February. So as I'm reading forward for the reading for the energy ahead in the coming week. Why am I saying that is because the final echo came up so much last week, but I'm still kind of sitting in last week's energy. A loss or a mourning. Maybe it's the mourning of what we saw in the data dump, sitting diagonal. So the mourning for the people, the children, the teenagers that went through those humiliating and traumatic experiences, and maybe we're in that mourning stage of seeing that some of the things people were saying all along were really happening. I believe Virginia Giuffre was justified by those emails. And she's passed. So I'm not quite sure what that is, but I know that it came up a lot last week as well. So let's move ahead for predictive energy of how this all affects the world stage. So enemy within, internal sabotage, I also didn't read. It's what we do with our own energy. It could be some kind of sabotaging sitting next to the last week I said that it was kind of felt like an energy harvest, and maybe all of that data dump was to do something with our energy last week. Sabotage our energy. Okay, so let's take a look at world events predictive energy. Now, when I checked the astrology, I said, I wonder if we're going to have any fire events. Volcanoes. This is a volcano card. Pressure release, which could affect flight plans with the clouds. The clouds could cause cancellations of some flights. Now, I am flying. I'm not sure if it's going to fall in this week or in next week's collective energy, but I will be on a plane. But it says downgrade alert, don't panic. So I'll still be getting on a plane. So don't panic if you have to get on a plane as well. Okay, let's see. We've got the Tower card going on here, but something is in motion now. We've got a crowning role, which can be a royal card, succession plan, next phase. We could be talking about the monarchy. We could be talking about a succession plan of a leader. The next phase, thinking about the next phase. So I'm just focusing in on these ones for predictive energy for next week. So first of all, I was also have to note how after those Epstein files came out, media jumped straight back on Andrew, Prince Andrew again, all over the media. So he's like the fall guy for the whole thing. Nobody focus on anybody else. It's just all over the media, just about Prince Andrew again. So it seems to be he's the fall guy for any time something is released around the Epstein files. Harmful exposure. Crowning role. Succession plan. So it feels like all that harmful exposure that Prince Andrew, and I know his name's not Prince Andrew anymore, but all of that harmful exposure is toxic to the royal family. So are they thinking about their succession plan or next phase moving forward? Are we still going to be seeing more of that on the media or on the news? Developing now. AI adaptation, digital identity. So this is bringing in something predictively over here for next week that we're going to hear about recording. Okay, over here is an interesting group of cards. We've got the tower moment. Could be talking about a tower coming down or a collapse of a building here, but it could also be a system collapse, unsustainable. Currently in motion, developing now, developing this week for next week. Authoritarian response, false compliance. Authoritarian response was also in last week's reading as well. Somebody saying this is the way it's going to be. It's like a dictatorship. But we see a collapsing system, dictatorship system starting to develop over here. That's very interesting. And then we're moving into more information about a succession plan or a new plan or phase to move forward for a leader or the monarchy because of the harmful information that's been exposed with the files. Okay, are there any other ways to read this? It would be toxins or viruses being on the news next week. We could be hearing something about which I wouldn't be surprised also, some kind of synthetic virus or toxin sitting side by side. Don't panic about it, is what it's saying sitting underneath, but we may hear about it in the media. Maybe that's just a ploy to distract everybody from reading certain people's names or putting clues together with the files. But yeah, keep your ears open for that on the media. It's about some kind of toxin or virus in the media, but it could be something synthetic because it's sitting with a synthetic card. They're not going to tell you it's synthetic. Now, I wonder if this is something to do with Bill Gates being in the Epstein files. Very interesting. Looks like damage control to me. So keep your eyes open to distractions this week because of damage control. Okay, digital identity sitting with AI. Could be just looking at some form of new digital identity which is AI implemented. Downgrade alert. Don't panic. Has a plane in the background. Flight plan. Because here's me panicking thinking, oh, I'm about to get on that plane. It's saying, don't panic. Interesting. And I just noticed it's got a plane in the background as well. So maybe some kind of natural disasters or something being at an eruption threshold, pressure released for certain leaders. There's like a pressure point for some leaders because of harmful exposure or what's been exposed to the public. They've been exposed. So it's going to cause pressure build up for those leaders. That's just reading straight of these cards here, being a pressure build up for leader because of what is harmfully being released information. But we are seeing developing now a system collapse, an authoritarian system collapse starting to develop. Let's look at the personal reading to see how to best navigate. So this is the personal section, how to best navigate this energy. Now what I want to do here is just quickly go over these cards because there's a lot of duplications with the collective energy that's going on here. So we've got this authoritarian response that was in the other energy and people being power plays or tactical maneuvers. So this is tactical maneuvers by an authoritarian force compliance. Tactical, strategically planned things in place to project out to the people, the collective energy. I'm going to read it on a personal level too, but I just wanted to very quickly skim over this of what is going on here and what will be most affected by this week. So we'll be also, there's something in motion right now for a next phase of a plan, a catalyst event that has a ripple effect on the collective. Whether that's already in motion right now, because we see that card on the table, developing now in motion, and heading to the next phase of this. So next phase would be keeping your eyes open for deception, lies, deception, or saying some of that information that is released in the files is just lies and deception. But a turning point or a catalyst event that has a ripple effect on everybody personally, collective energy. Might say weather anomalies or strange events, but again we're seeing this final echo. What is it? It keeps coming up for the last 2 weeks. When I was shuffling these cards, I briefly got in energy around, now I'm not saying it's COVID, but I pulled in COVID energy and forced compliance with vaccinations. I'm not saying that that's what's happening this week, but something about the energy. There's something about the energy that I'm feeling that's similar. There's something going on here. I can put my finger on it, what it means, and why they quickly showed me that glimpse of information. Okay, so let's go into the personal energy. First of all, it's saying you are responsible for what you do with your own individual energy. You do not have to be forced compliant. So you do not have to be distracted by what the media is showing us or what narrative we're being forced to play into. Next phase. So maybe amping up the chaotic energy here. Chaos. Amping up the chaotic energy for the people individually, but you do not have to comply. Do not be forced into complying with this next phase, which is currently in motion, but you are responsible for what choices you make and what decisions you make. Remember, some things are deceptions, false lies. Now maybe there's information coming out about that. The ripple effect or the feelings that comes out when people realize they've been lied to. The chaos energy. Some kind of catalyst energy or a turning point. I feel this is a turning point. It's a turning point in the collective, but it could be it's a way of thinking. I feel it's the way people think, but it has a ripple effect on the collective energy. So you must be responsible for what you do with your energy. But I feel like maybe it's like an eye opening because it's got the lies and false information. I feel like it feels more to be like people having their eyes opened. Maybe this authoritarian energy here, this forced compliance, is saying that we've all trusted certain people, and then we get this information about what those people have been up to. So that could be causing that kind of turning point or that chaotic upheaval to the way people think. So this week, I would say do not buy into lies and deceptions. Be responsible for where you put your energy and the way and what you're doing in the collective energy. There's this still loss and mourning feeling, this depression energy over here because of the strangeness, the strange energy that's going on in the collective right now. But something's in motion to take it to the next level, the next phase. And the consequences of that turning point has a ripple effect that could affect many. So keep your eyes open to false information. Keep your eyes open to looking after your mental health when you are maybe realizing you've been lied to. especially when it comes to forced compliance. And I very quickly got then forced compliance could be people having to do things that they didn't want to do and were forced into certain things. Whether that's upcoming or whether that's feelings about finding out that information. But for the way to navigate this energy this week, this high strangeness, this sadness, this morning energy, is having your eyes open to false information. Being aware that the energy you put into the collective, this turning point energy, you can see the energies of being calm or being chaotic. You are responsible for how you play that energy. Hope you have a beautiful week ahead. Don't panic. We had that downgrade alert card on the last spread, so it says don't panic. That's very important. Choose calmness, because that also has a ripple effect as well. And I'll see you again next week.